From June 14th to June 25th, 2025, the Middle East was plunged into a firestorm of violence as Iran launched its most devastating missile assault ever recorded against Israel. Tel Aviv and Haifa, two of Israel's most fortified cities, became reluctant epicenters of chaos. Over 12 days, wave after wave of ballistic missiles tore through the air, their trails etching pale scars across the dusk skies. Some were intercepted mid-flight, others found their mark, erupting into mushrooming fireballs that shattered glass, rattled steel, and cracked the illusion of invincibility. Residential towers swayed. Sirens howled. The Iron Dome worked overtime, yet gaps emerged. And for a fleeting moment, the entire world turned its gaze to the eastern Mediterranean, transfixed by the drama unfolding over Israeli airspace. It was a conflict that stirred echoes of the Yom Kippur War, of Operation Cast Lead. But this time, something different lingered beneath the surface. A silence, a shadow, a name that wasn't in the headlines but was on the move: China. While the West debated ceasefire terms and global outlets counted missile launches, another power was maneuvering far from the spotlight. Beijing wasn't sending in tanks or press releases, it was dispatching unmarked cargo planes, circulating encrypted diplomatic communiques, positioning stealth naval assets near strategic choke points. The world saw fire, but missed the hand redirecting the embers. In this geopolitical theater, China did not seek center stage. Instead, it controlled the lighting, rearranged the props, and shifted the power dynamics behind the curtains. It wasn't just observing the Iran-Israel conflict. It was participating, not through force, but through logistics, influence, and silence. This is the untold front. The quiet war within the war. The story that escaped the front headlines. While the skies above Tel Aviv blazed with missile fire and the world's cameras fixated on Iron Dome interceptions, a quieter war was unfolding, invisible to most, but no less consequential. In the shadows of the battlefield, China was moving. Between June 14th and 20th, global flight trackers recorded anomalies. 5 massive Chinese Y-20 and Boeing 747 cargo planes entered Iranian airspace. But these weren't ordinary flights. Most lacked transponder signals, deviated from civilian routes, and vanished entirely over western Iran. Their cargo? Western analysts later speculated missile guidance components, drone spare parts, jamming technology, and high-caliber ammunition, all precision support systems to bolster Iran's retaliatory capacity. But the skies weren't the only domain of movement. Satellite imagery around the Strait of Hormuz revealed the sudden appearance of a Type 052D Chinese destroyer, equipped with sophisticated radar and surface-to-air systems. Officially part of anti-piracy operations, its true presence seemed anything but coincidental. Military observers noted its strategic proximity to Bandar Abbas, a key Iranian port receiving external logistics. Meanwhile, at the diplomatic level, China struck a delicate balance, speaking softly but signaling strength. Foreign Minister Wang Yi issued veiled statements. All unilateral military escalations must cease to preserve regional equilibrium. It sounded neutral, but analysts knew it was a rebuke, directed squarely at Israel and its U.S. backers. Beijing's approach wasn't aggressive, it was surgical. Like a grand master in a chess match, each piece moved deliberately. Not to dominate the board, but to tilt the balance of power just enough. By keeping Iran's war machine breathing, China wasn't just helping a partner, it was shaping the trajectory of the conflict itself. The war everyone saw was kinetic, but China's war? Strategic, silent, hidden in the logistics. Behind every quiet move by Beijing lies a deeper logic. one not driven by ideology or allegiance, but by interests measured in oil barrels, shipping lanes, and geopolitical leverage. China's actions in the Iran-Israel conflict weren't symbolic gestures of solidarity. They were chess moves in a long-term strategic endgame, and Iran is a central square on that board. At the heart of it lies the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, President Xi Jinping's trillion-dollar vision to weave Asia, the Middle East, and Europe into a single, integrated trade and infrastructure network. Iran, with its vast geography and access to both the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf, is a critical corridor in this grand design. Pipelines, highways, and fiber optic backbones, many Chinese-funded, run through Iran's highlands and valleys, making the country a keystone in China's continental ambitions. But there's more. In 2021, China and Iran signed a sweeping 25-year strategic partnership. On paper, it promised energy access and infrastructure development. In reality, it tethered Beijing to Tehran's stability. Iran agreed to supply oil at below-market rates, even under sanctions. In return, China pledged investments, military cooperation, and high-tech transfers, a lifeline for an isolated regime. This explains why China couldn't afford for Iran to collapse in the face of Israeli strikes or U.S. pressure. An unstable Iran means disrupted supply lines, endangered investments, and strategic gaps that rival powers, especially the United States, would quickly fill. The war, then, became more than just a regional firefight. For Beijing, it was a battle to protect its economic arteries and safeguard its geopolitical scaffolding. China's endgame is not victory by destruction, it's dominance through endurance. Keep Iran standing, and the routes remain open. Let it fall, and the whole chessboard shifts. To understand why China moved so decisively, yet discreetly, in support of Iran, one must examine the depth of Beijing's dependence on the Islamic Republic. This is not a casual partnership of convenience, but a calculated interdependence forged through geography, energy, and strategic insulation from Western pressure. China is the largest energy consumer in the world, importing more than 70% of its crude oil. While Saudi Arabia and Russia remain top suppliers, Iran plays a unique role. A sanctioned supplier willing to sell at discounted rates, often 12 to 20% below market value. This under-the-table crude, traded via ghost fleets and secretive barter deals, provides China with cheap, politically insulated fuel. In the volatile oil markets of 2025, where every price fluctuation carries economic consequences, Iran is China's energy safety valve. But dependence goes beyond oil. Iran is one of the few Middle Eastern nations willing to allow deep Chinese access to critical infrastructure. Ports in Chabahar and Bandar Abbas, road and rail networks through the Alborz and Zagros Mountains, even cyber infrastructure linked to China's digital Silk Road. The Chinese tech giant ZTE reportedly helped develop surveillance systems in Iranian cities, an echo of Beijing's domestic control model now exported abroad. Militarily, the relationship is maturing. Chinese radar and missile guidance systems are rumored to be part of Iran's air defense modernization, complementing older Russian S-300 systems. Joint drills have occurred in the Gulf of Oman, and satellite data sharing may already be underway. If Iran falls to external pressure, internal unrest, or full-scale war, China risks losing a strategic forward base, a discounted oil source, and a corridor that anchors its BRI ambitions. In short, Tehran's survival is not just in Iran's interest, it's in China's national security blueprint. In the theater of modern conflict, not all power is projected through thunderous airstrikes or dramatic headlines. Some strategies unfold in silence, with precision, patience, and plausible deniability. This is China's doctrine in the Iran-Israel conflict, a masterclass in strategic subtlety. Beijing's leaders, from President Xi Jinping to Foreign Minister Wang Yi, chose their words carefully. No fiery condemnations, no overt military alignment, only deliberate calls for regional stability and de-escalation from all parties. On the surface, it was the language of neutrality, but for seasoned observers, these phrases carried weight. A diplomatic shield for Tehran, crafted to slow down any UN-backed consensus favoring Israel or US interests. Militarily, China refrained from deploying boots on the ground or launching missiles, yet its fingerprints were everywhere. It chose logistics over legions, unmarked cargo flights, quiet naval escorts, encrypted supply chains. Where the US publicly reinforced Israel with aircraft carriers, China simply ensured Iran didn't run out of options. Strategically, this fits China's broader model of power projection. In the South China Sea, Beijing builds artificial islands. In Africa, it establishes economic colonies through infrastructure debt. In the Middle East, it builds influence through survival support, subtle but deeply effective. Why this approach? Because in a world where Washington draws attention with every strike, Beijing thrives on ambiguity. It achieves results without triggering backlash, favoring strategic outcomes over sensational headlines. Keeping Iran in the fight, without ever saying so, allows China to contest American influence without direct confrontation. This is the modern Chinese way of war, not one of firepower, but of pressure points and patience. Silent, yes, but far from passive. Because sometimes, the most dangerous actor is the one who never raises their voice. In the wake of the Iran-Israel confrontation, a deeper undercurrent began to surface. Not just a bilateral war, but the crystallization of a new geopolitical alignment. From Beijing to Tehran, from Moscow to Pyongyang, the outlines of a multipolar axis have begun to harden. It's not an alliance declared with fanfare, it's a coalition of shared defiance, forged in the pressure chambers of sanctions, isolation, and strategic necessity. Just days after the ceasefire on June 25, 2025, Iranian Defense Minister Aziz Nazirzadeh made a high-profile visit to Qingdao, a coastal city in China, where he met with Chinese and Russian defense officials at a closed-door regional security forum. According to leaked diplomatic cables, the forum didn't just discuss de-escalation, it explored military technology exchanges, regional coordination mechanisms, and joint drills in the Strait of Hormuz and the Indian Ocean. These developments are part of a broader movement. Since early 2025, Iran and North Korea have resumed scientific cooperation in missile telemetry and satellite imaging. China, meanwhile, has quietly provided Iran with dual-use chemical compounds such as ammonium perchlorate and aluminum powder, essential for solid-fuel missile engines. Russia, already aligned with Tehran in Syria, has expanded drone technology transfers and radar software sharing. Together, this emerging Beijing-Tehran-Moscow-Pyongyang axis is not bound by treaties, but by intent. To challenge Western dominance, disrupt US-led alliances, and carve out spheres of influence beyond Washington's reach. It's a new form of alignment, less NATO-style pact, more strategic interdependence in the gray zones of warfare and diplomacy. And while the West still debates the legacy of NATO and the future of democracy, this new axis is already building the infrastructure, logistics, and command structures of a parallel order, one where the rules are rewritten by the players once written off. The world is not sliding into Cold War 2.0. It's entering a new strategic constellation, born from the ashes of missile trails. The ceasefire between Iran and Israel, declared on June 25, 2025, may have halted the missile launches, but it did not end the conflict. It merely shifted it from visible flames to invisible maneuvers. While global media turned the page, China quietly bookmarked its next move. What unfolded in those 12 days wasn't just a war of rockets. It was a realignment of global strategy. China, without firing a shot or issuing bold declarations, asserted its presence in the Middle East with surgical precision, supplying Tehran, shielding it diplomatically, and anchoring it within a broader axis of resistance alongside Russia and North Korea. This wasn't just about protecting an ally. It was about preserving leverage, securing energy corridors, and building a counterorder to the Western-led global structure. Iran's survival, in this context, became not just a regional issue, but a pillar of China's global ambitions. In a world once ruled by loud declarations and overt power, China's playbook is different. Silent supply chains, diplomatic nuance, and long-term positioning. The US may still dominate with carriers and coalitions, but China is redrawing the map with patience, partnerships, and plausible deniability. And in that quiet, a new world is taking shape. If you find yourself questioning what really lies beneath the surface of world events, drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll keep uncovering the truths others overlook.